What's up, y'all? You're kicking it with Ann. I am in Bluff City, Tennessee. So I'm in the South. And I know a lot of my listeners, a lot of my besties, y'all are up in the North. And I miss y'all every day. My Yado guys, my karate friends, and my Taekwondo peeps, Spice Girls, I'm looking at y'all. And also, I know that there's more of you in other places, like Texas. I know there's some of you in Florida, but I don't know where all the rest of y'all are, so tell me so I can shout you out. I care.
I gotta know, who are the Spice Girls?
The Spice Girls are my Taekwondo friend group that went to Korea together. So we made a little group chat and we call it the Spice Girls. And there's Ben in there too. They're all Spice Girls. Yeah, I don't know. They're really funny. They never take anything serious. Anything. Anyway, let us know where y'all are listening from so that we can adequately shout you out, because Spotify won't tell me. So, got someone I want y'all to meet. This is Sifu Randall of Southeast Wing Chun Academy, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet him. I've been talking about Wing Chun a lot. I always wanted to try it, and I have put my money where my mouth is. Please say hello to my friends.
Hi everybody, my name is Sifu Randall. I am an instructor in the Lungting Wing Chun Kung Fu organization. I'm a student of Master William Parker from San Antonio, and I've been with our organization for about 16 years now.
Just the organization?
Just our organization for about 16 years now.
Okay, sweet. What did you do before Wing Chun? Because I know you've done a lot of styles.
So I walked into my first karate dojo when I was 4 years old.
No way.
Down in Bristol on State Street. Had a really phenomenal karate instructor, old school guy. And if he wanted you to just punch the bag for an hour and a half, that was your class. And if you didn't want to do it, you didn't want to learn karate that day, go home. So I don't think it would apply in today's world, but it was a wonderful way to actually train and learn the arts.
So you started with karate?
I started with karate. I did a little bit of boxing, did a little bit of wrestling in high school. I experimented with several different arts, including Japanese jiu-jitsu. I had tons of sparring partners who trained in several different arts and had the opportunity to learn some of those things. And my main beautiful life's journey is Wing Chun. So in Wing Chun, we do all 5 ranges of fighting: kicking, punching, knees, elbows, grappling, and ground fighting. Having wrestling and jiu-jitsu sparring partners really helped me focus on learning how to actually apply my ground fighting. Having Taekwondo sparring partners helped me really understand the kicks better. And then there was this crazy old Hapkido guy. He was in his 70s, and I sparred with him one time, and as a young man and pretty fresh into Wing Chun, he threw a kick at me, and by the time I realized he moved, his foot was literally right here.
Nice.
And what was that? And so, thinking about it for the weeks to come, I allowed him to be close enough to kick me so he didn't need to make any telegraphic movements. But I learned a lot from that. One of his students actually told me that at some point, I don't know if it was, when he was younger or older, because he was fast to me, but they said that his kick had been timed at 93 miles an hour from standing to completion.
Yo.
Which is crazy to me.
That would be so cool to measure how fast you can move.
That's awesome.
We need to invest in one of those those speedometer things.
Only if we win the lottery.
Okay.
Or get sponsored by Monster.
Like I said, we'll drink 10 in the next episode. How did you discover Wing Chun?
So it's very interesting. Looking back on it, Wing Chun has always been there for me. So when I was in my first karate school, and I was doing my first belt test, I actually got punched in the nose by a bigger kid. My mother was like, no, we're not putting up with this. My mother was a very protective mother. And so she said, let's find another school where they're not going to, just absolutely beat on each other. But I remember being maybe 5, and there used to be a Kmart on West State Street in Bristol. And we were driving past, and there was a sign that said Kung Fu. And my dad said, what do you think about Kung Fu? All I knew about it at the time was it was a bit more mysterious, right? People didn't talk openly about Kung Fu. It was, you would drive by the schools and it was a blacked out window, whereas karate was much more mainstream at the time. And so I remember walking into this school with my father, and there was a guy with a ponytail, and he was teaching the class, and there were maybe 8 or 10 adults in there, something like that. And we walked in the door, and the guy turns around, he goes, "Can I help you?" I turns back around. My dad says, "Yeah, we were maybe interested in classes." And he said, "For you or the boy?" He's like, "For my son." He said, "I don't teach kids," and just turned his back. That was it.
How old were you?
Maybe 5, something like that. "I don't teach kids, go away." Come to find out, Now, I didn't learn this for maybe 20 years, something like that. He was actually the teacher of my first Sihing, or elder brother, in the Lungting system. And so I was this close to finding it at 5, but it just wasn't the right time. But when I was in the Marine Corps, I experienced a little bit of Wing Chun, and when I got out of the Marine Corps and trying to figure out what to do with my life, I got into martial arts for multiple reasons. Found Wing Chun eventually, and never looked back.
Yeah. Wow. Where was the mounting organization at? Was that pretty close to you?
So it was about a 45-minute drive from where I was located, and I wasn't looking for Lungting Wing Chun. I was just looking for any Wing Chun to train in at the time, which Wing Chun is very hard to come by. Honestly, it's not.
I noticed.
Not very common, and so I found one, and it was in the smallest town, in a place you would never think is in. It was in Elizabethton, Tennessee, and I said, I think somebody's playing a prank. I don't think there's going to be a Wing Chun school in Elizabethton, Tennessee. And so I was driving by the school. There's an open sign on. I'm like, it's Sunday, and there's an open sign on, and the door's open. I said, I'm going to go in. So I pulled into the parking lot and walk down the street to go in. And I go in through the doors, and as my eyes are adjusting from being outside to inside, I just see these two guys just absolutely going at it, just beating the crap out of each other. I mean, they had full gear on, which you don't see in a lot of Wing Chun schools, and they were just absolutely going at it. It looked like a brawl. I thought I walked into the middle of a challenge or something. So I'm watching these guys, and I'm like, maybe it's the wrong time. So I start to back out, and I'm like, I'll come back another time. And then the older guy that was there, he turns around and he goes, "Hey, you, stop. Can I help you?" Just looking at maybe taking some classes and seeing if you're accepting new students. And he said, "Sit down, I'll be with you in a minute." So I sat down.
That's so scary.
And, at the time, I started training with him, and he was the baddest dude I think I'd ever met in my life. And he helped really build a strong foundation of how to train my Wing Chun before I moved to train with Sifu Parker.
Wow. And where was Sifu Parker at?
So Sifu Parker lives in San Antonio, and he's one of the head men, the IWTA North American section, and he is, in my opinion, the best practitioner in North America. Wow. I don't think anybody comes anywhere close to him. So it's about 1,300 miles away, and after meeting him the first time, I used to travel 3-4 times a year before I decided, let's pack up and move. If I really want to get good at Wing Chun, I'd go to the source. Yeah,
so you spent some time down there then.
I was in San Antonio for, I believe, almost 10 years. And when I initially moved to San Antonio, I was very fortunate. I didn't come from a lot of money, but I was able to, have a job. I actually had a job up here that I transferred down to San Antonio that was very flexible with my schedule, so I was able to train with my Sifu 6 days a week and twice a day sometimes, and definitely spent the better part of my life in the Kwoon training. If I wasn't in the Kwoon training, I was trying to get one of my brothers to spar with me or work on whatever we had worked on in the school, and there was a time for, I would say, about probably 6-7 years where I trained 10 hours a day, 6 days a week.
That's craziness.
It is. I was totally obsessed. I was definitely that guy. I just had to be doing it all the time.
Yeah.
So a funny story, actually, one time we were lined up for class, and my Sifu is looking down the line, and he's not talking to me, but I think talking to me, and he said, "I love that some of you guys are very involved, and you're in love with the art, and you really want to put your best foot forward. But I need to make sure you have some other hobbies. You need to do something else other than just Wing Chun. If all you think about is martial arts all the time, there's something wrong." And so he was telling me, you have to find a balance in life.
Yeah, that's hard for some people.
My Sifu said, "I like you, but not that much. Take some time away."
Oh my gosh. That's how you know it's bad.
Think about it while I'm eating breakfast. Go to sleep thinking about it. Find a new martial artist that we have a friendly fight with, and I would go to bed at night just thinking about, what would I do in this situation? Man, he caught me with that hook. How do I beat that from where my hand was down? What do I do from here? How do I, if I'm in that situation again, and then it would play into my dreams, and I would have martial arts dreams.
Oh my gosh, we were talking about that yesterday too. Mm-hmm. Martial arts dreams are real.
100%. And they evolve.
They do. And that's how you can kind of tell. It's if, I won't go into it, but if you're curious, ask me. I started having the dreams, now I'm getting into it. In the dreams where I'm not getting picked on anymore, and it's turned into being oh God, what am I capable of? And also the fear of that, especially around red belt era, and then when you're getting a little bit more dangerous, but you don't know how to mentally handle it. So
Learn to control yourself.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, you've been in Wing Chun for so long, like, can you also tell us a little bit about the history of Wing Chun? I'd love to have like a summary that comes from you.
So we have two stories, and this may be the first time it's been put on camera, maybe not. It's not something that you hear a whole lot. The traditional story is Wing Chun was invented by a Buddhist abbess named Ning Moy. Ning Moy then taught young Wing Chun, who was a young girl. Now, wherever you hear the story from, it could be a little different. She needed to defeat somebody. There was a bully that was picking on her or something like that. And so Ning Moy, along with these other monks and abbesses, created this art. And then Ning Moy wound up passing it to Yen Wing Chun. Yen Wing Chun used it to overcome her bully in whatever situation. And then she taught it to her husband, Lung Bak Chao, who was a salt merchant. Then it goes on and on down the line through Lung Lung Kwai, Wang Hua Bo, Lung Yi Tai, Dr. Lung Jan, who was the famous medicine man, who was actually, if we look in historical text, Dr. Lung Jan is the furthest back that we can really trace Wing Chun outside of the story. And then we say Dr. Lung Jan taught Chen Hua Shan, who opened the first school, and then his youngest son, Lung Bik, and they were both integral parts of how Great Grandmaster Yip Man learned the art. So Great Grandmaster Yip Man started when he was 6 years old, learning Wing Chun in the traditional Wing Chun school in Foshan, China, with Chen Hua Shan, and his Sihing was Ng Chung So. And in Chinese martial arts, a lot of times your Sihing will spend more time with you than your Sifu actually will. But they recognized Great Grandmaster Yip Man had a lot of talent. Then, of course, Great Grandmaster Yip Man taught who we know as our idols today, like Grandmaster Lung Ting, Bruce Lee, all of those guys. Then passed it to my Sifu and passed it to me, something like that. There's one more story. The story is that story is bullshit, right?
No way.
So they say the story was created as part of Chinese culture. It's not really considered lying. It's considered building a good story or telling a story. So when we look at the history, we can say Ning Moy, being the Buddhist abbess, she lived on a mountain and practiced martial arts all day. That tells us that we need to be steadfast in our training, right? We need to train hard as the monk will train. We need to put our whole into it, right? It needs to become a part of our life. And then we say Yen Wing Chun was a small, frail girl who was able to defeat a much larger opponent. That teaches us to use intelligence and body mechanics. And then we learn Yen Wing Chun's husband, Lung Bak Chao, was a salt merchant. So he was a man who literally carried the weight of his whole life on his back. And it tells us to, put down some of those burdens. So everybody in that story teaches us a little bit about how we need to approach martial arts or approach life. The story goes, Wing Chun was really invented by Dr. Lung Jan and several others when there were some Westerners who came to Hong Kong Island who were having some fights with some of the Kung Fu masters, some of the animal styles. Maybe some of them weren't doing so well. So Chen Hua Shan went to his Sifu, who was Dr. Lung Jan. He was a famous Tai Chi practitioner as well, and said, hey, there are some Westerners that are kind of beating the crap out of all the Kung Fu masters. And Dr. Lung Jan was like, okay, go watch and learn from them. And he's like, no, you don't understand. Like, they're beating everybody, and they're saying the Chinese Kung Fu is useless. They're dancing, and we should go back out in the woods, and calling us sick man of East Asia kind of a thing, which was a big stereotype. And so Dr. Lung Jan was kind of more vested to go and see for himself. So he goes to watch this fight, and so he watches a few fights, and he notices that they have a real simple concept, right? You can see back in the old scripts of the bare knuckle boxers, they would do this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And he noticed that their basic concept was they didn't dance around, but they understood their range, distance, and timing. Understanding range, distance, and timing, they just kick them or punch them as soon as they got into range. So Dr. Lung Jan said, hey, let me try. I want to fight with these guys. And that kind of came about that if he could get past their first attack, then he could use some of the things that he learned in Tai Chi to kind of overcome the fight. But that was a kind of a wake-up call to say, hey, we need to take what we're doing and get rid of the fluff. So Wing Chun was invented to take this mass spectrum of what is wushu in China, which is all martial arts, and just kind of laser focus it. And you can see in practice different from Tai Chi versus Wing Chun. We have similar movements, such as Tai Chi has push hands, Wing Chun has sticking hands. And they're similar in concept, but as opposed to following a hand, we follow the center. And so it's just laser focusing everything. And then that's why Chen Wuxian had the first Wing Chun school, was because he was an integral part of the foundations of Wing Chun. And then some of those other guys that were named may have actually been a part of it. They just weren't. It wasn't exactly like it was given to us in the history, something like that. And then, so we have the Lung Yitai who put in the knives and the long pole. And that's why we only have 2 weapons forms in Wing Chun, and the long poles to, steer the boats.
That was like the best summary of the background I've ever heard. And one question, did
Dr. Lung Chun?
Yeah, Leung John?
John?
Did he do well in those fights?
From what I understand, so this story I heard from a different lineage, which was the Lungshan lineage. One of the Sifus told me the story, and then heard it later on. I think from a Sifu in the Moya lineage, he had heard a similar kind of a story. From what I can put together, he was able to win the fights. I don't know if he came out unscathed, but I can't imagine he took too much of a beating if he was able to come out victorious in one of these fights.
Oh, okay. I was curious if that was like one of the moments where Wing Chun kind of became like this phenomenon of like this like magical Asian like.
I definitely think that Lung Zhan being able to become victorious in those fights when so many others had failed definitely gave him some steam to power his new idea. So
Interesting.
I definitely think it didn't hurt.
Yeah. So which one do you believe more?
I think it doesn't matter. I think that's not what the important part is. The important part is that we can learn something from either story, and I think we can learn something from both stories. And I think even if it turns out that both of those stories are not true, that the essence of what those stories teach us is what's important. Train hard, be smart, don't participate in fights, and always be constantly growing and evolving.
Yeah. As like a little side note, I almost wonder if it was developed actually like by a woman, because like normally people wouldn't lie about that, right?
It wouldn't be something that especially in Chinese culture, which is a very patriarchal society.
It wouldn't be a strange story.
It would be a strange story, right? It wouldn't be something that they would brag about. And Wing Chun has got a lot of flack over the years from being invented by a woman. And most people, whether you like it or not, they consider women to be the weaker sex or the fairer sex, something like that.
That's all of history.
But
so that's what makes Wing Chun so interesting to me. And actually, I kind of wish it was a little bit more well known, because I mean, just like when I first learned about that, I was like, really? Are you serious?
The only art ever created by a woman.
Yeah. And I didn't think there was any.
And it just happens to be the most intelligent, like the smartest art.
Yeah.
Right? If you give it a shot,
made me feel something.
Anybody can take something from Wing Chun, right? Wing Chun can help anybody because it's a series of concepts. But it's so intelligent, right? And me as a man, I've met so many incredibly intelligent women in my life, and there was a large portion of my life where I said, I think women might be a little bit smarter than men. They don't do some of the dumb stuff that we do, and they can be more rooted in logic sometimes. And so if you consider the fact that Kung Fu was a man's thing, China and Chinese culture was a man's world, really to have Ningmoy succeed in a man's world, she would have to be absolutely phenomenal at what she did.
Oh,
and I think it's absolutely and entirely plausible.
I hope that that's what's true, because that's what also sticks out to me and kind of means a lot to people like me. So yeah, I think that that's really cool. Also, when I came into your school for the first time, I saw a picture of her and I was like, click. I took a picture of the picture. It was so cute. Do you still have that?
I do. It's hanging up in my main training area.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wing Chun is so focused on their lineage. I noticed like all martial arts technically has lineage, because that's how hobbies and traditions work. If like it does have to come from somewhere and they got it from someone, like we in a lot of the Korean arts don't feel like we have that. We have that by maybe like a few generations back, but not anything we really feel any kind of connection to. So that does kind of suck, and it makes your world feel a little bit smaller, actually, because you don't see like the length. And also, it sounds like Wing Chun is a pretty old art, which does give it a little bit of that that heaviness and like that meaningful feeling. Whereas like some arts are newer, like we're talking like 50s, and that's like brand new. So I think that that's interesting about Wing Chun is like you guys really keep a log about who trained with who.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also like you train in like Wing, like Tsun, right? Like that's how you say it?
So you can say Wing Chun or you can say Wing Chun. The
Right.
difference in the spelling and even the pronunciation really started with Great Grandmaster Yip Man, right? So he had a lot of phenomenal students. And the different spelling was a way to differentiate which of his students was teaching which idea, right?
Mhm.
Because Wing Chun is conceptual, and how you understand a concept might be different from how I understand it. So the Wing Chun with the TSUN is Grandmaster Lung Ting's trademark logo. That's his style. In the external martial arts community, the CHUN spelling is probably the most common, the most popular,
It's
probably
most,
because of
well-known.
the Ip Man movies, right,
Yeah.
which were made by his son, and they did a phenomenal job with the movies, by the way. It wasn't not the best Wing Chun in the movie, but the first one definitely had a lot of real life stories from his life. Past that, it became more theatrical for to make money for the theaters. But I like anything that spreads a little bit of popularity to Wing Chun. But in the Wing Chun world itself, the TSUN spelling is actually the most well known because
For the artists?
For the artists.
Oh, okay.
Because if you train Wing Chun, whether you love them or hate them, you know about Grandmaster Lung Ting.
Right. Okay. That's pretty awesome. That's good to know. Because I definitely didn't know any of that going in. It's not like Chinese is a phonetic language anyway. It's all characters. So yeah, it makes sense to me. Who would be like your favorite figure in Wing Chun's history then? Because like a lot of people, they want you to say Bruce Lee right now.
Bruce Lee is the worst thing to ever happen to Wing Chun. The worst thing to happen to Wing Chun.
Hot takes.
The most influential and important figure, in my opinion, for Wing Chun was Great Grandmaster Yip Man. Because he did something that was frowned upon, looked down on, and really kind of exiled him from some of the community. He taught non-full-blooded Chinese. He taught half Chinese, half Indian. He taught half Chinese, half German. And Kung Fu was always a closely guarded secret. They say that the ancestors named Moy said, if you make Wing Chun popular, you have dishonored me, right? It was supposed to be an even more closely guarded secret. And Great Grandmaster Yip Man said, no, I think the world deserves to know. Even though it wasn't his first intention to teach, when he was put in the position to where, he had to teach, he said, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I think Great Grandmaster Yip Man definitely not only changed the face of Chinese martial arts, he changed the world. Great Grandmaster Yip Man changed the world, whether you want to admit it or not. He formulated the world that we see today because he was able to phenomenal students such as Wang Shanglung, right? And he would take his students who trained with him for 6 months, and they would go to have friendly fights in other dojos and dojangs and stuff like that from all the different artists that were in Hong Kong at the time. And this is where we get the story of the famous, Hong Kong rooftop fights.
Right.
Was because the students were actually fighting. And so he had students who had trained with him 6 months to a year who were able to best and better, karate students or taekwondo students or whatever the case may have been at the time, who had been training for 10 years or 20 years or something like that. And not that, the Wing Chun was so much better than the art, because we don't believe that any art is better than another. I don't believe Wing Chun is better than any other martial art. It's better for me, right?
Yeah.
It's like which flavor of ice cream. But in doing that, it kind of exposed a lot of arts at the time. They weren't giving you their best stuff, right? So
Right.
A teacher would teach a lot, and they would teach legitimate stuff. It was good stuff, but they saved the best stuff for family. And so it was to have somebody say, this is my student of 20 years, but this other guy's student of 6 months just beat him up. I need to show him a little bit more. So slowly it kind of stepped like this to where it's no longer, a closely guarded Japanese secret. You can charge a ton of money and show him one or two things. If you wanted to stay relevant at the time and survive, the teachers had to really give their all into their students. And so not only did we see Wing Chun kind of emerging into the spotlight at the time, we saw other martial arts getting better and better and better. And it became a whole big thing of sharing the arts, right? And it just sparked an insane amount of passion in people you would never expect. So Great Grandmaster Yip Man did that. He taught so well. And he was such a phenomenal practitioner. He created Bruce Lee, right? He took a young kid who was a dancer from the Chinese opera, and his parents were stage actors and stuff like that. And he turned him into something incredible. And Bruce Lee was not that good at Wing Chun.
I see.
He was a phenomenal athlete. He was one of my icons growing up.
Right.
I mean, he's Bruce Lee, right?
Yeah.
But he was not that good at Wing Chun. He did, I think, 5 years of the 8-year program. So he learned the Sun and the Chum Kyu. There's a little bit of debate whether he learned the Buji or not, but he definitely did not learn the dummy and the weapons forms and the more advanced concepts.
He didn't?
He did not, but he didn't need them. So he learned Sunam Town Chum Kyu, and he learned them very well. And he trained a lot, 8-10 hours a day during his formative years. Then he came to the US and pretty much just destroyed everybody, right? And he was an instant sensation.
Right.
So he was an instant sensation. He was incredible. He was doing demonstrations and making movies and paving the way for Chinese people to be in cinema and things like that. And he did all that with the Sunam Tao and Chum Kyu.
Which there's 3 forms in Wing Chun.
3 forms. Sunam Tao, Chum Kyu, Buji. And then we have the wooden man form, which if you know anything about Wing Chun, you've seen the wooden dummy. And there's a lot that you can do from the dummy that's not even technically the dummy form. And then we have 2 weapons forms, the Bacham down, the
Oh, okay. Got you.
But Bruce Lee, one more thing I want to say about this guy. Bruce Lee was the worst thing to ever happen to Wing Chun, and I'll tell you why. Bruce Lee became a sensation. Everybody knew about Bruce Lee. Everybody in martial arts knew about Bruce Lee in the US. Everybody, right?
Yes.
Bruce Lee trained in Wing Chun. Everybody said, I want to do Wing Chun, right? Everybody wants to do, I want to be a Wing Chun master.
Yes.
So you had a handful of people who said, let me find a Wing Chun teacher. And then for every one of those that said, let me find a Wing Chun teacher, you had 1,000 people across the country go, I am a Wing Chun teacher. They read the magazine and then they claim to be something that they're not. Which is where you get a lot of these guys on the internet that are around. They claim to be the Wing Chun master and they're teaching garbage. And it's so hard to differentiate from.
Yeah, it's hard to weed through.
It's hard to weed through. If you don't know until you know. And so if you're not a part of the Wing Chun community or Wing Chun world, you can take this guy who's trained in Okinawan karate for 4 years. Okinawan karate is great. They can handle a lot of people. And if he can just beat you up and you can't touch him and he says, oh, this is Wing Chun, then you believe him, right? Or if he reads a magazine and says, okay, this is Mansawu, this is Gandan, this is Tanda, that might be all he knows. But then he can present himself with confidence. With the emergence of the internet,
yeah, like modernism.
With modernism, we had a unique opportunity to see a lot of those fake masters get punched in the face, and I was all for it. I'm like, man, somebody go punch those guys in the face.
Those are pretty viral for a long time, actually. Stuff like that.
So we have a different kind of approach in Chinese martial arts. It's he's not my student, he's not my problem. He wants to do his own path, let him go. People will eventually find the path when they need it. And there were 2 things that happened. The same thing happened when Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu became very popular. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu handled it much differently. They said, this guy's claiming to be one of us, go beat his ass. Or go fight this guy because he's claiming to do something that he's not. So then you had the fake BJJ masters getting exposed by the real BJJ black belts or whatever.
So there's like that kind of system where we could find it out by just getting on the
In Chinese Kung Fu, that's not something we would do because we would preach, humility and balance and tranquility and stuff like that. Yeah. And so actively seeking out a fight would not be something that would be condoned by the culture. However, if we had done that in the emergence of the internet, I think, in my opinion, maybe Wing Chun could be. If we had considered it like policing our own, instead of saying, it's not my student, not my problem, he's claiming to be a student of Wing Chun, but he's totally full of shit. And if we had went and handled that, the world would be much more suited to weed out the good from the bad. And there are some Wing Chun Sifus out there that have millions of followers, and it's garbage martial arts. It's fake. And once you train in my school for twice a day for 6 months, 3 months, you'll know the difference in good and bad. Anytime somebody throws a punch and it stays stagnant, and that teacher does 2, 3, 4 movements, it's garbage. It's never going to work.
That's a good point. What is the teacher doing?
You never get 2, 3, 4 movements for 1 punch. Go to a boxing gym, spend a week there. You're going to learn that the punch goes out, the punch comes back, and it's quick. So you realistically, when you train martial arts, you get 1 movement to 1 movement. That's all you really get. There is a little bit of a nuance to that, because in Wing Chun we train to be more efficient. So by training to be more efficient, it makes us seem faster, right, when it's done properly. Some people get too blinded by, I want to be faster or I want to look like Wing Chun. They lose the meaning and they lose the realism. But nowadays we have a bunch of guys teaching garbage, and then we have a few people who are very regulated in what they post. They don't put out anything too good.
Right.
You're not allowed to put out a sparring video. You're not allowed to do this or that. And we don't publicize challenge matches, stuff like that. I've got several students from challenge matches. I've heard good and bad things about Wing Chun. Let's try it out. I'm like, oh, this is my favorite part. You put on my gloves, you know?
Right.
And, but we don't publicize anything like that because it doesn't go with the image that we want.
Yeah, and the whole idea. That makes sense. And like, if you're ever looking for an art and you feel unsure, definitely feel free to reach out. I'd be willing to help you out because it is very hard to know what you're looking for if you don't already have done that quite a few times. But I would say you do gotta be careful. I really mean that.
And I have people who will reach out to me from, I try to advertise locally in my area to grow my school, to better the community, stuff like that. And with the nature of the internet, even trying to target locally, I still have people from Washington State or New York State, or I've had people from Italy reach out to me and say,
That's
hey,
so
where's your school at? And I tell them, and they're like, man, if it was any closer, I'd love to come. And so I say, hey, let me help you try to find a school in your area. And even if it's not Wing Chun, right? I love martial arts, and I think martial arts is one of the best benefits that somebody can have in their life. And I'll take an hour or so out of my time to research, say, hey, what city are you in? Let me research the martial arts there. What do you want out of martial arts?
Part.
Let me look, try these 3 places. I think you'll like this place, but these are legitimate martial arts schools in your area. This is why I like them. This is why I don't care for some of the other ones, but here's the list of what you have. These are the places I recommend.
Yeah.
And people, typically they'll message me back a week later and go, hey, I went to this school. It was everything I thought it was going to be. You're absolutely right. I love it.
That's awesome. Oh, yeah.
So yes, reach out if you have any questions. If you want to learn anything about martial arts, you can message me on my Facebook or through the website day or night. I have 4 kids, so I don't sleep anymore. There's no sleep. You can message me anytime.
That's awesome. I think that's really valuable. And take us up on that, for real, because I think I can easily say this is kind of our life. So I do really enjoy talking about it. And so I know he will too. So we did have a question that came in. Can you briefly tell us what is the main difference between Wing Chun and like Shaolin Kung Fu?
So in China, we say Kung Fu, right? In the Western world, you say Kung Fu, people go, oh, Bruce Lee, right? Martial arts.
Yeah.
In China, Kung Fu means hard work. So whatever you put your whole self into, right? Whether it's cooking, whether it's, a server at a restaurant, whether it's a steel worker, it means put your best into what you do, and the more you put into it, you'll get out of it. So we have blanket terminology for Chinese martial arts called wushu. Wushu is like all the arts in China. There's so many different martial arts, and they're all called Kung Fu because it's their hard work. So when we think of Kung Fu, a lot of people, especially in America, when they hear Kung Fu, they think Shaolin Kung Fu and animal styles and things like that, which come from Shaolin Temple, or it's also known as Solemn Temple. So all of that comes from Solemn Temple. It comes from practicing and meditating and being out in the woods and observing how creatures interact with each other. And so it's a great exercise. It's very popular, it's very flashy. It looks super cool. I mean, how cool is it? You can do a backflip and land in the split and punch a guy in the chest at the same time.
They are so cool.
It's so cool to look at, right? And Wing Chun is kind of the opposite of that. Throw away all the flashiness.
It looks very different to me after.
It's very different. The most important part is the economy of motion, right? Body mechanics and shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So we get rid of all the fluff, right? There should be nothing that we train that doesn't have direct combat application. Wing Chun is a concept. We can take anything in martial arts and we say, okay, how do we make this as efficient as possible? And that's what Wing Chun should be. You can use a karate punch, right? Or you can use the spinning kick or whatever. I'm sure there's a reason or a time or a situation to where a spinning hook kick, even in street combat, could be the most applicable movement. I personally find that a punch in the face is typically the fight ender for me. I like kicking below the waist, and I like punching above the waist. But there is also a time to where maybe if you can't get out of the situation, which I think is very important to never look for the fight, but there's potentially a situation where kicking somebody in the face might be the best answer. And so when you take that, any martial arts, you can apply the Wing Chun concept to and just make it efficient, what works.
Yeah, so Wing Chun is very realistic, it seems like.
Realistic. The focus has to be on realism, right? It was born of realism, and whichever story of the origin you listen to, It has to be designed to work very efficiently to counteract Shaolin Kung Fu or whatever other martial art.
Yeah.
It has to be realistic. It has to be quick. It has to be simple.
I think that is the heart of it. That is like the key, I think, is Wing Chun, from what I've seen, is very like, how can we just realistically do this, and how can we do well in a fight? Whereas like there's other arts, like we're talking like Shaolin Kung Fu, that are like expressive, and I know a lot of the extravagant things that they do does come from a bit of showmanship, and they wanted to show off some of their feats as a type of warding, like to like be like, don't mess with us, watch this, like we'll do like a backflip. And with like Wing Chun, there's no excessive motion, so it seems like it's all very like conservative as well with like your energy. Would you say that's right?
We don't waste energy. So when we practice the Sun Tao, right, and we breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, we practice diarrhythmic breathing. That builds a lot of energy in the body. When you move, we should always try to react explosively. So we will exert a lot of energy, but we don't waste energy.
Yeah.
You see a lot of on the internet, people, they throw the Bong Sun, they want to do all these movements when the real answer was you just punch them in the face. Or, you know, this guy's out of range. I see a lot of times people, they throw a punch and they're reacting from this far away, and which this doesn't look like it's very far away, but it's incredible the difference it makes in the martial arts. Once you understand your range, one of the ways to get there is by sparring.
So I would like to get into the technical things about Wing Chun. You've done a lot of different arts. Why this one? Why did you dedicate your life to this one?
Specifically me, the simplicity of Wing Chun just absolutely blows my mind. And you start off and everything's very simple. A punch is just a punch. And then one day it becomes so much more than a punch. We learn low elbow cutting force, and we learn that the hands are going forward. Even if I'm doing a Tansao or Bangsao, my hands are trying to go forward, and eventually it goes back to just being a punch. And so the simplicity of that, to breaking everything down into arcs, angles, and line of attack. That's what Wing Chun is. Arcs, angles, and line of attack, and how they're affected by range, distance, and time. When you break that down, the simplicity of it is there's only so many ways somebody can attack you. It can be left hand or right hand. If it's traveling on the same trajectory, it's the same attack. The same thing for the kick. Front kick with your left leg, it's pretty much the same thing as a front kick with your right leg. It's just, do I shift this way or do I shift that way? And so everything that, you know, when you go into Wing Chun and you learn something incredibly complicated like Jisao, which is the most complicated movement of any martial arts ever. I don't care what anybody says. It is the most complicated, weirdest, most difficult thing to learn. You hit a point to where you go, wait a minute, I'm overcomplicating this. Everything in Wing Chun that is complicated is only because you make it complicated. Everything we do in Wing Chun is simple. It's not always easy, but it's always simple. And the simplicity is beautiful. When you focus on that simplicity and you learn, you know, I engage this muscle group at this time, this muscle group at this time. I take my angles. I use, you know, my bigger muscles against the smaller muscles. And then you learn, maybe I can beat up the bigger guy. You know, it doesn't have to be about being strong or being tough and being able to take a lot of shots. I can just move out of the way and hit him. Or if he's overpowering me, then I'll go the other way, right?
Yeah.
So we yield to the force and we use that soft energy. And as you know, I have students who are 6'7", 6'8", who have spent 40 years in karate, you know, who are bodybuilders. And Wing Chun is the only reason I'm able to do well against those guys. I think if I was doing Kempo karate or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something, there would be a lot of limited, not taking a shot at those arts, right? But I think any other art, there would be a lot of limitations, and Wing Chun helps me get past those limitations.
I like that. You know, I was kind of wondering too before, like if this art was ever beautiful to you, because like there's been times where I was training and I would see something like so simple and so effective, and I'm like, God, that's beautiful.
It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's like I'm looking at it and I look up to the icons of Wing Chun, like Sifu Parker. When I look at Sifu Parker, he's like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger to me, right? Or Sylvester Stallone. He's incredible. And I look at, you know, Grandmaster Lung Ting, and to talk to Grandmaster Lung Ting and to be in the same room with him and to watch him train and to receive correction from him and to take lessons from him, it's like as big a deal to me as like meeting the president or something like that.
Right.
Because he's just so incredible.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to have somebody who, when he goes to places in Europe, Like they'll throw a parade in his honor that he's arrived in their country. And then he just comes to the US and he's like, okay, let's get some training done. I mean, it's incredible to me.
I love our community so much.
Absolutely.
I love martial arts a lot because of that. And that's really cool that like when you meet your heroes like that, a lot of times they're just people and they're kind of like you. And they're kind of like me.
If anybody sees this, or Sigang, if you see this, please forgive me. But the first time I met Grandmaster Lung Ting, I was a white shirt. I had traveled to San Antonio for a seminar, and I'm nervous, right? I saw him and I said, "Sims, bow." And he's like, "It's okay." And then we were staying in the same hotel, and I had breakfast together at one point, and he's genuinely the nicest guy in my experience, right? So a lot of people have had different experiences with him. He is a bad to the bone dude. He is, you see him and you see, the Chinese guy. I'm not a big guy, right? So Grandmaster Lung Ting is a little bit shorter than me, but you see him and he looks like an average, everyday, ordinary person. But his aura is like when he walks into the room, you can feel it.
Wow.
And so So the first time I saw him, I didn't have to go, "Is that the Grandmaster that I've never met?" No, I knew. Right?
Yes.
Locked up like this.
He walks like it. He talks like it.
And then he just, he's the nicest guy. Come up and shook my hand the first time I ever met him, which was, crazy to me. Then being in the room at the seminar when Grandmaster Lung Ting walked in the room, like to see everybody go locked in and focused, it's incredible.
Moments like that feel so unique and special.
Absolutely.
Actually.
I remember the first seminar that I went to with Grandmaster Lung Ting. I was told, hey, if he doesn't put hands-on time with you, don't take it personally. He's going to probably spend his time working with the black shirts, the technicians or whatever, to make sure that they're squared away, to teach them whatever so they can continue to teach you when he goes away. I was totally okay with that. I'm like, I just want to be in the same room with the man. And then like day one, first seminar, he's like, okay, come get the black shirts over here. Let me get the technicians over here. And let me get the white shirts right here. And then he walks over and he goes, "You, put me an armbar." Scared to death. Oh, what's an armbar?
Right?
Who am I? Try.
I hate those moments, actually. It's so bad.
And then he beat the crap out of me, nicely. As nice as you could. Then he's like, "Come on, I'll show you." So, incredible martial artist. I've met a lot of people in a lot of different martial arts and a lot of grandmasters from martial arts, and Grandmaster Lung Ting is just something incredibly special about him.
Oh my gosh. Do I ever get to meet him?
Hopefully, maybe. He's doing some time across Europe right now. I would love for Grandmaster Lung Ting to come back to the U.S. and give me another opportunity to meet and train with him and talk with him and share with some of my students the experience of this person that I talk about all the time. Because if you ask any of my students, right, almost every class I mention my Sifu or Grandmaster Lung Ting or somebody, and I talk about how they beat me crazy with one hand, And it's beautiful to see that as far as I've come in my Wing Chun journey and my martial arts journey, my Sifu is like it almost seems unattainable how much better he is than me. It seems almost unattainable, but I see myself working towards that goal. And to see somebody like my Sifu, who is he has the 7th level, which we don't do belts in our organization, but we have a similarly structured setup when it comes to the technician grades. And he's a 7th level and world renowned, and he beats up everybody, right? And to see him talk about Grandmaster Lung Ting like he is, just to him at a level that's unattainable, to me is incredible. It really re-solidifies the idea that there is no destination to the journey. You can always get better.
Yeah, and honestly, I think I'm kind of inspired by that. I'm glad that there's no destination, actually, because I, for one, can't wait until I'm old. And then I'm going to be Grandmaster. That's my little goal that I have. I'm
not looking forward to getting old.
Wow. There's a level of delusion that's helpful, and I have a lot of it. So I'll help you out with that if you need. Grandmaster.
You see the grays creeping in already?
It does kind of scare me, though, to be honest. I'm going to be 30 in 2 years, and I already don't really train like I used to. That's why I did sport karate for a bit, because I was like, it's now or never. I got to learn how to do cool, flashy stuff, or it's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. That is kind of hard. But Wing Chun is it's very fighting heavy, so at times it can be kind of it can be a little bit brutal, I'll be honest. There's I haven't gotten too hurt, really.
Everybody's been easy on you. I tell my students, go easy, she's only 4th degree.
I thought that my hand-to-hand was I thought my hand-to-hand was pretty great. And you know me, I don't ever really talk myself up like that, but I was like feeling in myself, I was like, my hand-to-hand is good. So then for a while, like last year, I was working on the art side of it. That's why I was doing like very sporty, very competition styles. And I was like, show me how to use the samurai sword. I got to doing that, but doing more Wing Chun actually has been really cool because I've learned some new concepts that are not natural to me, but is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I learned y'all punch with the pinky. I kind of want to ask you about that because obviously in a lot of arts you actually point out the first two, and yeah.
Okay, so this is a big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people say you can't punch with the pinky because you'll break it. It's the smallest knuckle. This is true. This is bad news for everybody. But if you punch with these two knuckles, you can train them, you can condition them to take a lot of abuse, and you can punch people in the face a lot with it. It's a good punch, right? But one of two things happens. Depending on how you're holding this hand, either when you hit something of substance, either you hit with these two and it puts the pressure across here, which damages the wrist, or you put the pressure across the bones of your hand. Now, there's a very common injury, it's called a boxer's break, and it comes from punching like that. Now, somebody like Mr. Mike Tyson or Floyd Mayweather or one of the other Jake Paul, the internet guy, they make like $50 million. They probably break their hand and they go sip their $5,000 champagne and live the life of luxury while they're healing. If you don't make $50 million a fight, I would rather not break my hand with a punch. In Wing Chun, I say we aim with the ring finger.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right? So I will over-exaggerate and articulate the pinky so that I can teach you your low elbow cutting force. So what happens when you punch, if I can use your hand for demonstration. Kevin, will you hand me a book?
Yay, Kevin, everybody.
Come in and say hi, Kevin.
Yeah, come on.
Hello. My student, Kevin, he's here helping us manning the cameras and the lights and all that.
Yeah, watch out for Kevin. He's going to be making waves someday, right?
Absolutely. I'm putting my whole into this man.
Yeah.
So, if you make a fist, real simple. If I put this one here on these two knuckles, you can see that there's space here. When I rotate it down, even to the pinky, you can see that actually we contact, if we can see here, all three of these knuckles.
Whoa.
So you still get the stability of this big middle finger knuckle, and then this one and this one. So what happens when you rotate this wrist into a position, and it takes a little practice, not a lot, but you'll see that the pressure no longer goes across the wrist or across the hand, that when you hit with these bottom three, the energy goes all the way through the arm. And so what we try to do is we connect the knuckles to the wrist to the elbow, elbow to the shoulder, shoulder to the hip, hip to the foot.
Actually, that feels pretty good.
It's a much more structurally sound punch.
Yeah.
Again, I have a lot of little people who want to be able to protect themselves against somebody really large.
Yeah.
And breaking your hand does not do a whole lot of justice for that. Also, in punching with these bottom three knuckles and rotating the elbow in, we take the pressure off of these small knuckles. And when you hit with a bent hitting tool, as much energy as you put into your target also comes back into you. So when we rotate the elbow down, and we can learn that actually now we can use the lats and the tricep, which are bigger muscles.
Interesting. Do you guys have less of the rotator cuff injury then?
I have never heard of somebody injuring themselves in that way. The shoulders, the elbows, the knees, I've never heard of any injuries that come from Wing Chun training.
That's nice, because you Filipino martial arts guys out there, every single one of them has had the shoulder surgery, even Tim, Corey Sadka.
It's common in martial arts. I mean, even in boxing, you condition everything. But then after 20 or 30 years, you start to have these injuries from your shoulder, and it's from all that impact just torquing on them.
Yeah.
And so the great thing in Wing Chun is actually we relax the shoulder. We never engage these muscles in the shoulder. The stabilizers hold everything in place. We let it go. So even if I'm punching and something is able to go here, you see my shoulder will actually absorb this energy.
Yeah, seems pretty safe to me, actually. I really think, hot take, but I think you should love your body.
Absolutely.
I don't think you should beat it up, because we're talking longevity.
You only get one.
Exactly. Martial arts is about self-defense, right? So, like, don't hurt yourself. That defeats the whole purpose. So I like it. That also makes me want to ask you about, can you tell me a little bit more about the center line? Because we're all dying to hear a little bit about that from, like, an actual master.
So let me make this simple as possible.
Please.
Based upon your skill level and understanding, you might think this line here is the center line. That's a fine starting point. You have a lot of targets, vital organs and targets that you can hit. You have the diaphragm, the xiphoid process, the throat, the nose. These are all wonderful targets. Unless you have somebody who can guide you through the more advanced processes, I say leave it at that and go from there. We learn in Wing Chun that the center line actually evolves. I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about this.
No, yeah, we need to talk about it. Listen.
We have, this is our vertical noon line. This is our horizontal midline. Now, if you connect my vertical noon line, which is the hair on my head, to my center of gravity, and my horizontal midline, and then you connect that to your opponent, that's the original idea for center line. So the center line is, if my opponent is moving, I'm able to stay with him. That's how we simplify a lot in Wing Chun. So I say before, we deal with arcs, angles, line of attack, right?
Yeah.
We don't deal with technique for technique. We follow the center line, what we call pursuant posture. And when you follow the center line, you eliminate a lot of variables. So as opposed to going to the side and dancing around with somebody, you follow them. You can break everything down very simply. So here's a basic idea of the center line. You have a wedge. If my hand needs to go down here, this is taking care of this side of the body. If it goes down here, it's taking care of this side of the body. Up here, it's taking care of this side, so on and so forth. Now, there are times when we're going to cross the center line for whatever reason. We don't actually reach across like this. It's always, there's always a movement. The wrists typically stay right here, even when we do the Bong Sao move. You see so many people on the internet, they go like this, like the Bong Sao is going to stop a punch. The Bong Sao doesn't stop a punch. These same people will tell you, we have no blocks in Wing Chun. And then they proceed to try to block and use the hard Tan Sao and block. They tell you, we don't block, but then you see them trying to block. First of all, we'll never work against somebody who knows how to throw a punch and who really wants to hit you in the face.
This is where it gets a little complicated. So I understand if it's a little hard, but he's saying there's no blocks in it,
No blocks.
because it's something slightly different. More redirection or controlling it.
I cannot move a bigger man than me all the time. I can always move myself.
Period.
Can I do a demonstration?
Yeah.
Kevin, come be my partner here. So we're going to use Kevin here, okay? So if Kevin wants to punch me in the face with his hand and I throw a Bong Sao at him, this is not going to stop a punch. Throw like a cross, right? If I try to throw this right here, it's bad news for me. This is not what the Bong Sao movement was for. And a lot of Wing Chun is misunderstood in this way. They think, oh, I'm going to go ahead again. I'm going to throw this and you're going to get punched in the face. And you see this, all these guys who don't know what they're talking about, they're getting punched in the face. That's not what the Bong Sao is for. That's not what your Tan Sao is for. It's not what any of the movements are for. Bong Sao is useful if he has a low elbowed punch, whether it's a traditional Kung Fu guy or karate guy. And what this does is, as I make contact, as he continues to come in towards my face, I'm not going to stop him, right? I'm going to move myself. This is Bong Sao. It's like an antenna, right? So our deflective movements, and sometimes you punch with this one so they can see, sometimes I can guide him off a little bit. You can see I can move him a little bit, but you don't always have to. It's like an antenna, right? We use what we call tactile response in Wing Chun. It's like you put your hand on a hot stove and you pull it off really quick, right? So tactile response takes a lot longer to train. Once it's trained, it's a little bit quicker than using your eyes. So the movements here are, and it's all based on one simple concept. The hands in Wing Chun go forward. So if Kevin wants to punch me in the face, actually I just want to punch him, right? Punch straight down the middle, occupy the center line. Actually, I just want to punch him. I don't care what he knows or what he can do. Again, I just want to go forward. And a lot of times punch with this one so they can see this one right here will win the fight. There's no reason. I never want to look like Wing Chun, right? I never want to do these movements. It's not going to work for you. The hands have to go forward, occupy the base center line, boom, and then you win. If he can make me move, now you do this one. If he can make me move and he's challenging my structure, then I give up and go here. If he can make me move, then I will go here. This is also very useful in grappling. So a lot of the things that we do in Wing Chun with the sticking hands, you'll start to find they're very, very useful in grappling. So maybe we're in this tied up kind of a situation. We're trying to grapple for position. As Kevin's hand starts to cross my body, this one here, cross my body, then I'll use my Bong Sao to find my positioning, something like that. But this is the central base idea of center line. Eventually we go, okay, we have different levels, right? We have this level and this level and this level. Don't even get me started on the legs. When you do the legs, it's like the upper half of the body all over, but the same basic concepts. So eventually you have this base center line. Then you have a bridge center line, and then you can have a point from your elbows or a point from your shoulder. And it gets very overly complicated. I don't even know if what I'm saying is going to click to you guys. You understand what the hell I'm talking about?
Right. Actually, Wing Chun is very full of theories. And if you are kind of interested in martial science, it's really good for you. And you should come and train with us because we love talking about this kind of thing. And I like hearing about it. And it sometimes clicks and sometimes doesn't. But I hope that you can come to find some sort of meaning in a lot of it. And it's always good to think about things from a new light, or that's a little bit outside of our own boxes. So as you can tell, there's a lot that goes into it. There is a beauty in the simplicity once you can kind of find that, but there also is a lot of theory. So I think that's what keeps it very interesting to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And theory is, by nature, it's kind of complicated as a thing. But that's why it's the martial arts. It's what humans have invented and continually adapt and make in response to an aggressive world. I could go on and on because I would love to talk to you about philosophy because we're just talking about theory. When you're just starting in martial arts, it's very body heavy and you're like trying to focus on how to get your body to do what you want it to do, and that can be very difficult and it feels kind of awkward at first. And then you start to develop into learning about like histories and stuff, and then like memorization, and then you start to learn a few ideas and concepts, and then you get into theories, and then you can get into philosophies. And I have an episode dedicated just on philosophy, but there's so much, there's almost too much. But what is interesting is this art, they say, is started by a Buddhist monk?
A Buddhist abbess.
Abbess.
So a female monk.
I see. And then it's a little bit more into Taoism now.
So inherent in every movement, we have Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. Those are three kind of philosophical standpoints that play very heavy into Wing Chun, such as if he punches me, I just want to hit him I want to hit and not get hit, right? Yeah. So Taoism teaches us to live in the moment, to deal with stuff as it comes. Don't think too much, right? When Bruce Lee said, every philosophical quote Bruce Lee had was something he stole from Wing Chun. So Bruce Lee said, good fight should be like a small play, right? But played seriously. You want to find your state of mind, not thinking, yet not dreaming, ready for whatever may come. What he was saying was, you don't anticipate the movement. We don't try to figure out what our opponent's going to do. We practice our art in the moment. We mold ourselves to the situation. So when he said, be like water, right? You put water into a teapot, it becomes a teapot. Put it into a cup, it becomes a cup, right? Water is so adaptable and flowing, right? But it can carve through mountains. That's what we try to be like in Wing Chun. So if the punch comes in, it's fine, I'll go this way. If something else happens, I'll go this way. It's whatever you react to the situation. And a lot of people struggle with that. And they say, when somebody throws a punch in my face, how do I mold myself to that situation? And the answer is a lot of practice. Almost everybody drives. You drive based upon the information you're presented with. It's how we live life. So you can only do your best with what you have. We live in the moment and we apply ourselves to the situation. And that's the Taoism side of it.
Tons of possibilities that could happen at any time, but it's important not to get overwhelmed by them because that's that's like the enemy actually. That's like the downfall, because if you get overwhelmed, you're too much up here. And like my favorite thing about being a practitioner is like the parts in my journey where I notice my body's doing something I don't even know, like less mind. And that is so nice because like there's this trajectory throughout training, like where I said like your body, it's so hard to get it to do what you do. And then there's this one point where you don't even know how you did what you just did, but your body remembers.
We say in Chinese martial arts, we call it flow state. So there's a state, it's a state of mind, right? A lot of people, the first time you get there, it's because you're so tired. I'll never forget the first time I hit the flow state. And it seems kind of like your consciousness is just set back in your mind and your body is just doing.
Right.
The first time it happened to me was I was on day 3 of a 3-day seminar with Grandmaster and it was very fight heavy. I mean, we were spending 2 hours at a time constantly sparring and trying to punch each other in the face. And I was so dog tired by the end of this thing. I'm on day 3. And, it's hot. I'm in San Antonio and there's 100 people in the room. I can barely keep myself moving. And then it just like, it's kind of like my consciousness just set back and it was like watching a movie. And I was watching my body just do all these things. and I was not making cognitive thought processes. I wasn't making the conscious decision. My subconscious had kind of taken over. It was a beautiful, perfect flow. And the person I was working with was like, holy crap, what just happened? I can't touch you. And it was hitting the flow state.
And a lot of people don't want to hear this, but to get to places and have experiences like that, you have to be pressure tested.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to put in the work, and you have to make yourself uncomfortable. And that's a huge bridge, I think, that a lot of people aren't willing to.
Here's one for your martial artists and aspiring martial artists, anybody who wants to consider martial arts or has done it for years and years. You have to be honest with yourself. What that means is if you want to grow and you want to get better, it's going to be uncomfortable. If you want to get in better shape, you have to exercise. You want to lose weight, you have to diet, right?
Yeah.
If you want to get better in martial arts, you have to find where you are most uncomfortable and put yourself there.
Yes.
For 6 months, maybe 3 months, 6 months, whatever the case may be. So you find, I don't really like doing kicks. You make yourself kick.
Yeah.
For 6 months. And then you reevaluate. How do I feel about kicks? I feel pretty good with them. Great. What do I feel bad at? What is the movement that intimidates me the most or scares me the most?
Right.
Or whatever the case may be. There was a time in my Wing Chun career where I had not done a lot of like ground fighting and groundwork. And with the emergence of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's one on every corner. Everybody and their brother trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So there's a higher probability that you could wind up on the ground, right? So I said, I'm not extremely comfortable with ground fighting. So I asked my Sifu, can you teach me the ground fighting program? Spent a ton of time studying it. And then what I realized was we apply the same concepts to kicking and punching as we do to the ground fighting. So the same concepts work on the ground. Then I had to do the uncomfortable thing and go to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. I don't enjoy, doing the rolling around and stuff like that on the ground. I don't think it's the best for being out there on the concrete or the gravel, or there are places you don't want to be on the ground and your body's going to get scuffed up and cut up. It's not for me, but I had to do that uncomfortable thing to make myself comfortable with going to the ground.
Yeah, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to literally show yourself and allow yourself to see what you're bad at. It's discipline. Even I have a love-hate relationship with discipline. I admire it so much and I love it, but it is so difficult. And you have to let go of ego too. A lot of times, there's going to be a lot where it's embarrassing. You fall. Really
ego has
hurt.
no place in martial arts.
God, no, it doesn't. Actually, it's so healthy to let go of. Once you feel it, you start to get a little crazy, like us, where you start to actually value the uncomfortability, and that's a little nuts. It's a little nuts, so bonkers for real. But it's a beautiful place to be in, where you're almost like make me more uncomfortable. Like I want to be in that place because that's when you feel like you're actually making some progress, and then you actually start kind of feeling good about yourself, and then that feeling's kind of real. And you're like, life is not so bad. So you gotta get through it. And even with myself, because I'm not perfect in it all the time. Sometimes, it's like you forget how good it feels when you haven't sparred for a while. Or you forget how kind of nice it is when you realize, oh man, I can take a punch. Look at me. But it's hard. It's hard. So definitely keep trying new martial arts and keep trying the things that are really hard for you. And I think that's actually what makes us what we are.
Absolutely. It
is a little crazy though. Remember that kid that came in? He's like, "You're nuts." I was like, "Oh, actually, I might be a little bit nuts."
A little bit. I think in today's culture we have a lot of varied personalities that come to martial arts. I think most of us are very weird.
Yeah.
And we're weird in different ways.
Yeah.
And weird in our own ways. Nobody doesn't fit in, if that makes any sense. Everybody fits in. You take a bunch of people who would never probably integrate in any other situation, and you lock them in a room, and you say, we're going to teach you guys how to fight, and you're going to fight with each other, and you're going to love each other, and they go, okay, well, I guess this is the way it is. And it works so well. It does.
And we were talking too about how the more you do that with your group of people, it really does start feeling like a little family.
Absolutely. Something that kills me about the internet is you have all the keyboard warriors, and
yes,
people comment on videos of like a Benny the Jet, right?
Or, my God, yeah.
I mean, just world-class
martial
artists.
The online community is cutthroat.
Bill Superfoot Wallace,
yeah.
Right? Benny the Jet Urquidez. I apologize if I mispronounced that. They post a video, and then it's just like just flooded with these keyboard warriors.
Yes.
And they're like, this will never work in a fight. And I'm like, do you even know who you're talking to? And people, you know, they comment on the videos, and I'm like, well, this is my address. You can come and experience the lesson for yourself.
Right.
They never show up. The keyboard warriors, they're gonna stay out there. They're down there. They're down there.
Mm-hmm. It's the real G's that comment and be like, wow, that looked really awesome. You know, like, and that's why we have to keep doing it, because there's people like you and I out there, and like, you know, we're also the consumers. There's good people out there like us that are like, wow, you know, that was pretty awesome. We're actually rooting for each other. Obviously, my feed is flooded with the martial arts content. I use Facebook a lot, and it's like anything that's martial arts content at all, there's always a ton of laugh reacts.
I've seen 15 Wing Chun videos today. They have commented something hateful on every one of them. Who hurt you? What's wrong?
That question.
You need somebody to talk to? You call me. I'm here for you.
That's so funny. That's so good. Who hurt you?
Let us know. We're here for you.
It was Daddy, wasn't it? Daddy never was home.
I don't want to make the joke. Show me on this bear. Maybe that's not the right one.
Yeah, it's not the right one. No.
Anyway.
Your time is one. Go train.
Yeah.
Get off the internet.
Yes, actually.
Get off the internet, get into the school and train. Try it.
Yeah. This is going to be the cover photo of the episode.
The shot that you put for the
thumbnail. Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be the thumbnail.
You know, I didn't realize I've worn a beard for a long time. I didn't realize that when I would teach in San Antonio in my teacher school. I didn't realize that I had mannerisms and habits. And somebody would ask me a question, and while I'm listening to the question, I'd go. And I didn't even, I had no clue that I did it. And one of my brother's name is Daniel. He said, somebody was asking a question, and he goes, oh, yep, here goes his pose. I'm like, what pose? And he's has the shirt, and he's like, he says I look like a evil villain playing well with my beard. But I just started focusing, and I figure if I just let my hands do something, then I can focus more.
Yes.
So I really try to understand the question, and had no clue that I'm doing the evil villain thing.
All right, can I be honest with you?
Like pie may.
I'm a little jealous.
Of the beard? You could grow one. That's okay. Minoxidil, or they do the transplant. They got the lasers now. They take some from here, put it down here.
That's true. I just think
You could wear a wig.
this would really add to my credibility. Actually,
Be like
instead, like, you know how
Like-
you said you gotta always do something, so
Yeah.
pay attention. Mine is always like this, so I look like I'm crazy.
I want
I'm always like,
I want
yeah.
the really long one,
Yeah.
like the one in Kill Bill. What was his name?
Pie may.
Pai Mei. He's got the long one and the
That's
ponytail that
gross.
goes down to your feet. You know.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to know, like, what about martial arts kind of gets to you? Because I got a love-hate relationship with it.
So I don't like fake masters. Anybody who's scamming people. Anybody who claims to have the magic chi powers, because it's dangerous. People will genuinely believe things like that.
Yeah, people are vulnerable.
It's psychological, right? And it's brainwashing.
It's a fake sense of security, I think,
It
too,
is.
which
It-
is not safe.
It really is. And I don't like people who comment in the videos and then don't show up. You can leave a mean comment, but come on in.
Yes.
Come on in and see me. But those are, I mean, they used to bother me.
It's like, why are they reacting this
Mm-hmm.
way? And then actually, it makes you feel a little bit of compassion, a little bit of empathy.
Absolutely.
And martial arts really helps with that, actually. It helps you to not even feel the feelings that would make someone say something like that. One of my first videos was when I was so young, and I posted how to do a psychic. And I never posted anything like really after that for so long, because someone was like, terrible psychic. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh my God.
Works out well for me, thank you.
Yeah. I am my own worst critic. I don't need your help.
I think you have to be your own worst critic in martial arts.
Yeah.
And here's a trick. You can try this at home. To be honest with yourself and go further. Set up your camera. Record yourself practicing. It can be your forms, your katas, sparring session. If your training partner will allow it, right? Record yourself doing some kind of movement. Then go back and watch yourself. Are your feet where they need to be? Are your hands where they need to be? Is your posture the right way? Do you like the way that your beard looks in the camera? You know, something like that. It's like we have a saying, my Sifu always says, the mirror won't lie to you no matter how much you want it to. So that's why every Wing Chun school, we have a lot of mirrors, right? You learn your positioning. You do a movement stop, look in the mirror. Oh shoot, my weight is not right. The camera is the same thing but better. You go back and watch it and you go, man, that was phenomenal, but I landed with pressure going across my knee that could be dangerous, or whatever the case may be. My elbow was not in the right position. It's a wonderful way to be really honest with yourself and help, kind of promote your own growth.
So martial arts is very obviously like your life purpose at this point.
Absolutely.
Why?
In the realest form, Wing Chun was there for me when nobody else was. Martial arts was there for me when nobody else was. I found a family in Wing Chun. I moved 1,300 miles away to somewhere where I had no clue, and my family in San Antonio Wing Chun Academy was just 100% there for me. Like, come on in, like we had been raised together. And you can find that in a lot of martial arts. Even cross schools, cross arts, you find kind of a unity and a brotherhood that doesn't exist anywhere else, right? A lot of people say that and they try to preach it and say, we have this kind of a relationship that's unique, but I really find it in martial arts is truly the case. You can meet somebody from a completely different walk of life with completely different life experiences and bond over a common interest. And, I have made some of the most incredible friends who don't practice Wing Chun. I know a guy who's a kickboxer, and if he called me right now, I would literally give him the shirt off my back, right? Have so many friends like that to where if they needed something, I don't have a lot of money, but I got some food at home. Come on over.
Yes.
I'll give you the shirt off my back. If I got $5, you're welcome to 2.5 of them. And I have so many friends that have done the same for me. I've met friends in martial arts where I've been on the phone. Hey, brother, listen, I just run over a nail. I don't have the money in my bank till my paycheck hits. And they're like, how much? I'm like, it's kind of expensive. It's going to be like $150. Hey, brother, I'm going to send you $200. Don't even worry about it. Put the tire on, go get you something to eat and take a break. Sound like you had a stressful day. And I'm like, I'm going to hit you back on payday. They say, absolutely not. Just don't even think about it. And so it's beautiful.
If you don't have that in your martial arts studio, you need to find a new one. Lovingly, I say that because...
Or create that environment.
Yeah.
Be the example.
Yeah.
You can be the change you want to see in the world.
You can, actually. It's one of the tenets in Taekwondo that I love. That I live by as well. Is the goal of Taekwondo is also to make a more peaceful world. I think a lot of people lose sight of that. But don't lose sight of that.
In my school, and it's posted. It's everywhere in my school. I have Great Grandmaster of Men's Code of Conduct. And it is a phenomenal guide for a martial artist. Everything from proof. It's everywhere. And we live by it. In my school, these are non-negotiable. Above anything and everything, we follow these. Remain disciplined. Uphold yourself ethically as a martial artist. Be respectful and honest. Serve your community and honor your family. Love your fellow students and classmates. Be united and avoid conflict. Limit your pursuits of bodily pleasures. Preserve the proper attitude. Train diligently and make it a habit. Cultivate your skill. Learn to be calm. Don't participate in arguments and fights. Cooperate with people. Be civilized and gentle in your manners. Help the weak. Use your fighting ability for the good of humanity. And pass on our traditions. Promote our art and its code of conduct. I mean, what's wrong with it? That's everything is perfect.
It is perfect.
The only thing that I add,
Buddhism in there and Confucianism in there. That's very Confucius, actually.
Everything is in there. And if we could all do that, imagine if every person in the world treated each other like that. So one thing that I kind of promote here is I have we call our 4 pillars, and I really push it in my juniors class. We have 4 pillars as we treat each other with dignity, respect, honesty, and integrity.
I've heard a few of those in the different arts that I've came across, and I love seeing like synchronicities and similarities in all of the arts. Everyone always talks about like the differences, but not everyone talks about like the similarities that make it all the same.
As part of my curriculum, I actually have my students do a study into martial arts, and there's multiple things that I ask them to do. First, they have to be able to vocalize and explain to me the difference in hard and soft styles. Give me examples of each one. Explain to me how they're different and how they're similar. All martial arts are similar.
Yeah.
Everything melds and molds and kind of melts together.
Yeah, in one way or another it does.
And then another focal point or topic is I let my students choose Taoism, Buddhism, or Confucianism, and they have to write an essay to me on how you incorporate that in your martial arts, in your life. What it does is the student typically chooses one of those topics, and they start to research it, and they go, man, this is a lot. And they start researching another topic. And so far, all of my students who I've told to, hey, write me this paper so I can see you understand this, they come back and they go, I spent 3 months researching Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism, and I'd understand, but it's so hard to verbalize. It's so hard to sit down and put it on paper. And it's an extremely difficult topic because I put also limitation. 3 to 5 pages, no more, no less. So you have to be concise. So it makes sure that you understand internally, that you can become somewhat intimate with these ideas and these concepts and philosophies. And then it also typically sparks, some kind of interest or passion for learning. And there's always something that my students find that they resonate with the most. One philosophy or one concept that they resonate with the most. For me, it's like the balance of Taoism. The whole idea from the yin and the yang and hard begets soft, and all this kind of idea that everything is always constantly flowing and evolving and you have to live in the moment. But every person will find their own thing that resonates with them. And it's interesting because it changes them as a martial artist and as a person.
It does. Giving your attention to stuff like that gives you purpose. And purpose is a gift. And so I think that's really important for everyone to have. For me, it is Buddhism. And it's a philosophy that melds very well with my own personality. And I also felt like that was a blessing.
When I see one of my students take something that I've given to them or shown them and grow with it and make it their own and really change who they are because of that, that is hands down the best feeling in the world.
It is. I wish that more adults would try it out and they didn't think that they were too old because, like I've said before, we're dying for new friends.
I have students who are into their 80s, and I'll tell you what, one of my older students in his 70s would absolutely mop the floor with so many 20-year-olds, right? And it's something incredible to say or to see, somebody who is, getting older in their age and they're still healthy and they're able to do these things. And it's very inspiring for me as maybe if I keep my diet, in order and continue to work and move my body and exercise, I hope to be, that when I reach that age as well. The best age to start martial arts is yesterday. The second best age is today.
I love that. We need more people to start. So with that, please tell everyone how they can find you and plug in your school right now.
So to find me, type in Southeast Wing Chun Academy, Wing Chun, WINGTSUN Academy. You can send me Southeast Wing Chun Academy at gmail.com. You can go to Facebook, Southeast Wing Chun Academy. You can type it into Google Maps if you're anywhere close to us. You type it into Google, you find my website and the Facebook and all the technology stuff that Sifu's not real good at, but thankfully Simo takes care of all that stuff for us. Or you can call 423-31860 or text anytime, day or night. It'll come right to my phone and we'll be here for you.
Thanks a lot for hanging out with us. It means a lot to me. And if you want to find me as well, don't forget I do have the Facebook page and you can find me on Spotify and I'm on YouTube now. So I'm so excited. Also, I'm going to put up the ways that you can support the channel. Please. I'm kidding. But if you love me and you love listening to me yap about all this stuff, please consider helping out. Anything is is helpful. I spend a lot of my time doing all this and gathering experiences for all of us to hang out and talk about. Yeah.
We could be sponsored by Monster in our next video.
That would be insane.
Give me money.
Right.
And you can just send checks to our school address as well. I'll pass them right along to her. Small handling fee.
Right. I love that. Okay, this has been Kicking It with Ann. Thank you guys.